Hello, and welcome to this explainer. If you're invested in real estate right now, or maybe you're planning to be soon, you already know the deal. Property ownership isn't just kicking back and collecting rent checks. Often, it's about waking up to frantic phone calls about a broken toilet at 2 a.m., right? Well, today we're looking at some truly fascinating data and strategies drawn directly from the rapidly growing rental market in Uganda. And while that's our case study, let me tell you, these principles apply universally, no matter where your property is. We're going to explore a fundamental shift here. How to transform yourself from a reactive landlord, the one who's always putting out fires, into a highly proactive asset manager. By the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly how the pros protect their investments.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the true cost of bad tenants. Second, how to master strict tenant screening. Third, preventing those costly property repairs. And finally, protecting your rental investment as a whole.
All right, starting things off with Section 1, the cost of bad tenants, or as I like to call it, the trap of reactive management.
Before we even start talking about solutions, we really need to understand the painful reality and the incredibly high stakes of ending up with just one problematic occupant. Okay, let's dive into this. 5 months. That number isn't just a random statistic thrown on a screen. That is nearly half a year of your property acting like a massive financial black hole for unprepared landlords. The data actually shows that eviction costs often exceed 5 full months of rent. And listen, that is not just the lost rent itself. Think about it when you factor in the sheer amount of vacancy loss, the incredibly expensive legal fees required to legally remove a non-paying tenant, plus the extensive property repairs they usually leave behind. Well, the financial damage compounds rapidly. Prevention isn't just a good idea here, it's vastly more cost-effective than the cure.
The contrast here is just staggering. One bad tenant or one neglected repair can instantly wipe out massive amounts of your hard-earned rental income. In growing markets, cash flow is literally everything. Allowing a bad tenant to slip through your net doesn't just cause a temporary headache. It can actively threaten the financial viability of your entire investment.
So let's fix that. Section 2. Master strict tenant screening. This is your front door.
Think of this as pillar 1 of our proactive strategy. Effective tenant screening is your absolute first line of defense against those problematic occupants we were just talking about. And this brilliantly illustrates the payoff. When you build a rigorous first line of defense using professional screening services, eviction rates absolutely plummet to below 1%. By putting the heavy lifting in at the front door, vetting hundreds of tenants systematically, you virtually eliminate the risk of ever facing that devastating 5-month financial hit. So how exactly do we achieve that magical sub 1% rate? Well, it comes down to a highly actionable, chronological 4-step vetting process. We don't just guess, we follow the system. Step 1, define your clear criteria. Step 2, conduct background checks. Step 3, verify their history. And Step 4, meet them in person. By applying this exact sequence to every single applicant without exception, you take all the emotion out of the equation and rely purely on the data.
Let's look a bit closer at Step 1. Defining your screening criteria means establishing totally objective benchmarks. You've got to set clear rules up front, things like minimum income to rent ratios, demanding clean credit scores, and requiring prior landlord references. Why do this? Because it creates a fair, completely unbiased, and consistent evaluation process. You aren't judging someone on a gut feeling, you're judging their financial footprint against a concrete, unwavering standard.
Moving right along to steps 2 and 3, we see a really effective dual approach. First, you build your digital safety net with background and credit checks. You use credit report services to verify financial stability and flag any criminal records or prior evictions. Simple enough. But you absolutely cannot stop there. You must actively pick up the phone and verify their history. Call their employers to ensure that income is stable. Call their previous landlords. And hey, not just to confirm they paid rent on time, but to ask specifically about how they cared for the physical property. Past behavior is always the best predictor of future behavior.
Finally, Step 4, meet prospective tenants in person. Look, even in our highly digital, remote-first world, this step is totally non-negotiable. An in-person meeting, even if it's literally just a brief 5-minute walkthrough of the property, is invaluable. It helps you assess their demeanor, ensuring they actually understand the rules of the house. It's just a remarkably simple way to gauge suitability and drastically reduce any misaligned expectations way before a lease is ever signed.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, prevent costly property repairs. This is the foundation.
We're shifting our focus now from managing the people inside the property to managing the physical foundation of the asset itself. This is Pillar 2. A proactive landlord simply doesn't wait for things to break. Implementing a structured preventative maintenance schedule is key here. Look at your seasonal or quarterly tasks.
Servicing the HVACs, cleaning out the gutters, doing plumbing inspections. Then, every 3 to 6 months, you're conducting routine property walkthroughs, just to catch the little things, a leaky tap, maybe some loose shingles, and finally, the immediate tasks. When a minor fix pops up, like a squeaky door hinge or some deteriorated caulking in the bathroom, address it within days. Doing this prevents minor, everyday wear and tear from escalating into catastrophic water damage or severe structural issues later on.
But hey, you definitely don't have to do it all alone. You need to educate your tenants on their maintenance responsibilities too. A fantastic way to do this is by providing a maintenance manual. This is just a simple guide outlining standard tenant duties like cleaning out their drains or changing their own light bulbs, and clearly stating exactly when and how they should report the bigger problems to you. This actually empowers your tenant, turning them into an active partner in preserving your real estate asset.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the financial strategy. Notice that small 5 to 10% slice of your annual rental income? That right there is your maintenance reserve. By budgeting this small percentage regularly, you create a built-in buffer for upkeep. When an unexpected repair inevitably pops up, you dip into this reserve instead of totally straining your daily cash flow. It's just a small, smart allocation that guarantees massive peace of mind.
Which brings us to our final wrap-up. Section 4, Protect Your Rental Investment. Adopting the Business Mindset.
Here is the ultimate formula for success. Combine the stringent tenant screening of Pillar 1 with the disciplined maintenance of Pillar 2, and the results are undeniable. You significantly reduce those long, costly vacancies. You virtually eliminate evictions. You stop those emergency, middle-of-the-night repair calls right in their tracks. And you do all of this simply by committing to investing in those small fixes early, way before they snowball into big, expensive headaches.
All the sources we've explored today point straight back to this single, incredibly powerful directive. Treat your property like a business asset. Real estate isn't completely passive. It requires active professional management. Evaluating tenants against clear, uncompromising criteria, inspecting your property regularly, and keeping cash in reserve, these aren't just neat little landlord tips. This is standard, rigorous business asset protection.
So I want to leave you with a question to really reflect on regarding your own portfolio today. Are you managing an asset, or are you just waiting for the next repair? Because if you don't have objective screening criteria and a proactive maintenance schedule in place right now, you're basically choosing the latter. Take control, implement these 2 pillars, and secure your investment for the long haul. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.